Hello and welcome to another Israeli Frenemies, the only news show where the Israeli politics get into the frame. We have today back from the United States, Ari Fold, my friend.
Absolutely, it's a great trip. Thank you for having me back. It's great to be here again.
Yeah, sure. I missed you. We had last week on Skype, but it's not like,
not the same.
The warmth of being across the table.
Absolutely.
And we have a special guest today, also a really good friend of mine, whom I've known for the last, I think, 15 or 16 years.
We're getting old.
Yeah, we are. Former Secretary General of the Labor Party, and today Deputy Speaker of the Knesset, member of Knesset, Chilik Bar.
Hello.
Good to have you here.
Good to be here.
And let's dive into the issues.
Absolutely. This week there were the primaries for the Labor Party in the Knesset, and we've seen this party go from the leading party in Israel, a long history, of this party, of the Labor Party, and now they're really fighting to kind of like come up to the surface again. How do you explain what's going on here with the Labor Party?
First, you have to admit that in the last two elections, we tripled our power from 8 seats when Ehud Barak left us, if you remember, in 2011, to 15 under Sheli Yachimovich, to 24. In 2015, when actually Isaac Herzog doubled the number of votes in just 2 years, from 400,000 under Sheli Yachimovich to 800,000 under Herzog. And you see that, Uri will agree with me probably, the bloc itself also got bigger, a little bit bigger. So all those who are saying that the entire people is going to the right wing and the left is gone, I think that it's too soon to say it. I think that we are getting a lot of power. Of course, the mistakes of the government and the fact that they are not doing enough in the social affairs will bring the Israeli people to the understanding that we need a change, and I hope that we will be the change.
Well, it's been 9 years now that the right has been in government, I would say. And what shocked me was the discussions within labor was not let's talk about how do we make peace or how to deal with this. It was let's get Bibi out of office. And I find that strange. Again, like I said, the Labor Party was one of the parties that built this country. And the whole discussion is who's better to get Bibi out. And it seems to me a little bit, I don't want to say childish, I don't mean to insult anyone, but it seems to me a little bit silly. In other words, there are real issues going on, and all I hear is who's going to get Bibi out of government?
First, I totally agree with you. I was Secretary General in the last campaign, and I told him that it's a mistake to say just not Bibi, or let's make Bibi go home. We have a lot to say to the Israeli public. Besides establishing the state of Israel, we have the right ideas, at least I believe so, on the socio-economic platforms. We have the right idea of how to solve the Israeli conflict, or at least we're willing to try to solve the Israeli conflict and not just to freeze. And that's why I agree with you when we should have said, Israeli people, this is what we are going to do once we will have prime minister, not why the other one. I'm against negative campaign. I think it's not working. President Trump is a good example of how it's working to the other side. Yeah.
But Chilik, with regard to Netanyahu, don't you think that Herzog, I mean, the voters, the members of your own party, basically ousted Herzog because he was very weak vis-a-vis Netanyahu. He did not criticize Netanyahu, as you say. I mean, he was very open about wanting to get into the government. And your own membership, your own voters said, this was not enough. And I would add, don't you think that Netanyahu is a personification of something that's going on in Israel, and that's why so many people want him out?
I agree. The problem wasn't Herzog at the beginning. With Herzog won big time over Sheli Yachimovich in the primary election, and then he got 24 seats, so he had everything in his hands in order to be a great opposition. What killed Herzog politically was the very bad mistake of trying to crawl into Netanyahu government. Our voters said, listen, we don't want you to join Netanyahu, we want you to beat Netanyahu, and if you didn't beat him this time, let's make an amazing opposition and show Israel again what we can do instead of Netanyahu when we will be there. So almost half of this 2 years term was, will we be in Netanyahu's government or not? It was a big mistake. Most of the faction, including myself as a Secretary General, told Herzog that it's a big mistake and didn't agree to join Netanyahu's government, even if it will happen. People spoke about maybe a future split in the party. I thought it wouldn't happen, but again, this is what killed Herzog politically, and I think that it was a big punch in his face. It was from good intentions. Herzog is a good personal. He cares about the country, but he should have known that Bibi is not a partner, definitely not for peace.
You're now supporting Amir Peretz. We have now next Monday. We're going to have 2 out of 8, was it? And the 2 that survived the first round were Amir Peretz, who was in the past the chair of the Labour Party, and Avi Gabay. A newcomer, was a minister actually in Netanyahu's cabinet from the Kulanu party, left the Netanyahu cabinet after Lieberman joined the cabinet. And my question to you is, Gabay is bringing something new. We hear that Ehud Barak, the former prime minister, former leader of the Labour Party, is supporting him. Sheli Yachimovich, the former chair of the Labour Party, is supporting him. He gets a lot of support. He's a wave of fresh air. Why do you support Amir Peretz?
First, most of the Labour voters supported Amir Peretz in the first round, so it means that they see Amir as a leader that can lead us to new dimensions, to new and better future. Avi Gabay is a good person. He's a newcomer, but it's not enough to be a good person. When Avi Gabay joined the party more than 6 months ago, I was Secretary General. I blessed him. I told him that it's important that he left Netanyahu government and joined us. I suggested him not to run to be the chairman because the chairman of the Labour Party, not like the chairman of the Jewish Home or Meretz, is a candidate.
Good that take your advice because he's one step away from being the chair.
I think that not, but let's see. In just a couple of days. If he was the chair again of Meretz or the Jewish Home, it was okay because he's a nice leader, he's a good leader. But if he wants to be, or if the Labour wants its leader to be the candidate that will beat Netanyahu as a future prime minister, it needs to be someone else, someone with approved leadership, with the experience. Listen, this is Israel. We're in the middle of the Middle East. We have amazing and huge challenges, okay? We cannot gamble on new leaders. This is not a fashion party. Now, I suggested that Avi Gabay will join. We'll have some time in the party. We will know who he is exactly in the socio-economic. Do you know if he's a socialist or a capitalist? I don't know. Do you know exactly what his ideas about the 2 states, what will happen in the Jordan Valley? Well, I don't know. And this is the Labour Party, again, with our history. This is why, with Amir Peretz, who have advantages and disadvantages, more advantages, of course, I know that he have a political backbone of socio-economic issues, and definitely on the 2 states and the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. I know who to trust. I know his good points and bad points. I know that he's a leader.
So, Mr. Bar, I want to go back a little bit because, again, you just said he's the best person to beat Netanyahu, which is exactly the point that I said before. But I want to discuss more if you really think the Labour Party can lead the nation. In other words, you spoke about the 2-state solution. In 2013, I believe you spoke in a foreign parliament. It was in England, I believe. And your plan for the 2-state solution was that Jews should live under the Palestinian state. With the fact that, odds is in hand now, see that people are being slaughtered there, and the PLO is in charge of the west, parts of the Judea and Samaria, and they're not exactly treating their own nicely.
PLO is not responsible for anything.
Is that the kind of solution that you're still thinking that is
No.
a realistic
Listen,
solution?
that's not what I said. You can read my political platform. What I said, that in a future peace between us and the Palestinians, once we will have, and if we'll have a Palestinian state, I think that there is no reason in hell that we'll have Jewish community in any other country in the world. And
is there a Muslim state that we have a Jewish community?
Where?
Is there a Muslim state?
First, we definitely
there
is.
Morocco, Iran.
That lives peacefully with freedoms?
Look,
Morocco,
They're not free. They're not equal
Morocco,
citizens.
they're very free.
Citizens.
They're very free.
They're not equal citizens.
I want to tell you
They
something
are
about
equal
it.
citizens. You're just saying stuff that is pure lie.
Morocco, Jews are not equals. In every Islamic country there's dhimmi, they are not equal citizens.
Unlike the halachic state you want, in Morocco they have a law, not the law of Sharia.
Let's stay focused for a second. Again, I think we're talking about the 2-state solution. In terms of the solution, we're talking about, you said there's no reason that Jews should not live under the Palestinian
What I
Authority.
said is that in a future agreement, Jews should be at least offered to stay in their homes and not to tear them apart like happened in Gaza, definitely not unilaterally. Not like Uri, by the way, I was against the disengagement.
Oh, who
from
said
Gaza.
I?
You were? Okay.
Balin, whom I used to work with, was very
You're right.
critical.
You're right.
The guy who voted for the disengagement was Benjamin Netanyahu.
No, I agree with you, by the way. But I said, again, we have a Jewish community in every other country. There is no reason that we will not have a Jewish community in our most immediate and close neighbor, which will be a demilitarized state. And again, I'm not forcing anyone to stay. And of course, I know what you wanted to say, but we will take the necessary measures. You know what? I will tell you something even more extreme. The only Jewish community in the world that theoretically and maybe practically Israel will be able to defend will not be the one in Brussels, which was butchered, and in Paris that was had a suicide attack in a Hyper Kasher. It will be the Jewish community in the future demilitarized Palestinian state. And again,
we have what happened in Gaza. That didn't work.
No, Gaza is not a state. Gaza is not a state.
Gaza is not a state.
And we went out of Gaza unilaterally. It was a mistake, and this is why it became a Gazastan. I'm talking about something that you cannot see right now. About days after we will have a peace agreement with the Palestinians, with the security measures, you know what, maybe that these communities will have. I will not leave any Jewish to his own destiny under millions of Palestinians that will march to butcher them. It will not be the case. By the way, you are testing the things under glasses of conflict. Try to test it under glasses of peace. And you know who gave me first compliments on this idea?
And with that,
the Jewish home. The Jewish home. When I published my peace plan, I think it was Inon Magal. He's not now he's not in the Knesset right now. They told me you are the first leftist that are not making all the Jews to taken out of their home and deported like in Gaza. This is an idea that should be tested. And I want to see Jewish communities in places in the future Palestinian state.
Okay, Chilik Bar, it was a great honor to have you here on such a packed week for you, such a hectic week for you with everything that's going on in the Labour Party. I wish you all the best, and we wish to. We hope that you'll come here again in the future.
And good luck with the elections.
Yeah.
I hope that from Monday night we will begin the real journey to replace Netanyahu and not to replace ourselves inside the party.
Amen. Amen.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chilik.
Have a good
So, Ari, this week, the mayors of Tel Aviv and the mayor of Givatayim, a suburb of Tel Aviv, decided to oust religious organizations that worked within the educational systems of both Tel Aviv and Givatayim under the allegation that they are trying to influence the secular kids of Tel Aviv and Givatayim into a more religious, more, how would I say it, right-wing point of view. This comes on a background of some work that's being done by secular parents who claim that under Minister Bennett, the Minister of Education, who's also the chair of the Jewish Home Party, the party of the Zionist religious stream in the Israeli politics, those organizations flourish and try to what they call brainwash secular kids. Before I say what I think about it, I want to hear you.
So let me make something very clear. I mean, I was brought up in the States, in New York, and I'm fully against religious coercion. I don't believe that you can make anyone warm with religion or love religion if you blast them. We know that already from the Bible. We know it didn't work. And I don't think it would work. Growing up, my friends did not, belong to the Orthodox, to the Reform. This is a sickness that we have in Israel. And in America, they're less loud about this issue. So I don't believe in religious coercion of any sort. I really, really do not. When we're talking on the state level, I do believe that it's very, very important that we preserve the Jewish taste of the state of Israel. That being said, in terms of the budget-wise, the budgets actually started going up many, many, many years ago. Shai Piron was the former one, and that's when it really took a jump. Naftali Bennett, look, with the whole Kotel thing, he was the one who built, the platform for the egalitarian prayers. So I don't really think that he's into religious coercion. I think that there might be a budget problem. I'll agree with it. I have no problem with saying that.
So what, you say that because there's not enough state budget, so these organizations come in and come with
No, I'm saying I'm not sure which direct organization you're talking about. I'm sure you can imagine that I'm probably not in line with many of them. You want to talk about the Shas organizations? They're not my. It's not my ideology.
These are organizations that are affiliated with the Zionist religious camp, basically with Bennett's party.
I don't think those two cities. When I looked it up, I think they were more ultra-Orthodox organizations that were doing it. But again, I think the original study came out in Haaretz. I believe it was by something called the Secular Forum, if I'm not mistaken. And their biggest complaint, or at least what I read, was they were saying that there was passages from the Bibles and other classes and whatnot.
No, which again they proved that in education books that that are part. Our viewers should know that in Israel you have several streams within the educational system. All education in Israel is state-run. We don't have private education. Almost.
We have, but unless you want to pay, you have to pay for it. In other words.
Yeah, but you can't really. I mean, if it's very restricted. It's not like in the States where you have public and private schools.
Right.
Basically, all schools in Israel are public. You have several streams. You have the Haredi system, which is has its own
I would say it's even
separate,
private. It's pretty private.
But it gets a lot of state funding.
A lot of state funding.
And then you have the what we call the
Jewish public. Let's say the religious public school.
The public school. You're right.
The religious public
You have the
school.
religious public schools, and you have the public schools.
Right.
The religious public schools are the Zionist religious schools, and then you have the majority of Israelis who are not religious, who are secular by their own definition, who go to those public schools, and that. Secular Forum found that first of all,
the Secular Forum doesn't represent all those schools.
No, I'm not saying that.
It's a separate forum.
These are parents, but they had research. They found that in books, in issues that don't have anything to do with the Bible or anything like that, but on math and geometry and things like that, you found some religious
passages from the Bible,
or not only that, passages that praise the lifestyle of religious. Families vis-a-vis secular families, for instance, they found that many organizations that are affiliated.
I didn't see that, by the way. I was looking for it.
So trust me on that. I would love to see.
That I would be against. By the way, I did not see it. They said these guys are good and these are bad. I never saw that.
Well, they showed the kind of they didn't say this is good, this is bad. They showed like a family with a mom and kid as something bad, while a family where the father had a yarmulke.
I looked it up. I didn't see that. But again, if that's the truth,
trust me.
I'm against it already. You know that I would never. By the way, someone who's less observant than I am, you know that I don't believe for a second they're less Jewish than me. At all. So I'm totally opposed to what you know. If that is the truth, I'm opposed to it. 100%.
That's what they found.
But I think that,
and more so, Bennett said that there is no such thing.
No, he said there's no coercion.
There's no coercion, but then the ministry that he's responsible for took out some of those books out of the curriculum because they found that indeed there was some influence.
Right. So I think the biggest issue, I think we'll agree, is the budget. In other words, a lot of money is going to these religious, organizations that are going to the educational system and. As the right will put it, trying to give a little bit of Judaism to the schools, as the left would put it, they would probably trying to brainwash the kids.
But there's over 200 million shekels that went to religious studies under Bennett.
Right. So I just want to again, Uri, we spoke.
So
about
there is budget, but for that,
I understand. I'm saying that's what we're talking about. But in these two municipalities we spoke about, your party actually voted for it. In other words, Meretz voted. And some of them are even Shas, which is the ultra-Orthodox. They voted to give them.
Hold on.
You're talking about. Let me just clarify.
About Givatayim, a town.
Let me just clarify. They voted
where the deputy mayor from Meretz was responsible for the ousting of this organization.
No. But he voted originally to give them the funding.
Vivi Wolfson, a very remarkable woman. Who knows how to stand on her own views.
She still voted to give them the budget.
Yeah.
She still voted to give them the money.
She voted for the city budget. That's what she voted.
No, but the city budget was broken up into different parts.
Right.
That was one budget.
But when she found out what's going on there, she hoisted the flag of going against this.
Right. So here's the thing: Israel politics. You can say we can say what we can argue, but at the end of the day, the Knesset makes the decisions, and the government people and the politicians make the decisions. If your representative voted to give them the budget, you can't. In other words, you can't hold both sides of the side.
We haven't had a discussion about Givatayim.
I might not be for.
Perhaps she made a mistake and then she corrected it.
I might not be for all that budget, by the way. It's not my personal. I'm just saying, if she voted to give them the budget,
why are we talking now about Givatayim instead of talking about Israel?
Jerusalem seems not to be able to get out of the headlines, and this time it's a little bit surprising what happened. The Jewish Home political party, the right-wing religious party, was pushing forward a law that would basically make it impossible to split Jerusalem in any kind of negotiations with the Arabs. Who vetoed that law? None other than the Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu. I'm in a little bit of a tight spot here. You know what I'm saying? But I'll tell you the truth, is that I think for me and for, let's say, the Jewish Home, this is great. Because at the end of the day, I think we want Netanyahu in the driver's seat. We just want to make sure the passengers are certain, are the right religious people. I'm shocked. And I've tried to research why he did this. And I'm more shocked with him than with Trump. In other words, I say, look, and what I understood from people in the Knesset, they said, well, they wanted to take credit for it, and he wants credit. I remember the days, and I'm sure you remember the days, when Rabin was alive, and he was talking, and Perez, and they were talking about Jerusalem, and Netanyahu was up there screaming, you're going to give away Jerusalem. He vetoes a Jerusalem to unit, and he would make it impossible. So, go ahead, Uri, I'm giving you the floor.
For me, what's shocking here, and the breaking news, is not about the law itself. I think the law was a trick by Bennett to exactly do what you're talking about now, to show that he's more to the right and to the right of Jerusalem and to the right of Netanyahu. But the shocking news here is that Netanyahu finally was able to say no to something Bennett...
To someone.
to Bennett. I think that since this coalition was formed, Netanyahu is following suit everything that Bennett... Bennett is the real boss of this government. Netanyahu is the executor. Whatever crazy idea that Bennett comes up with, Netanyahu follows suit.
Give an example?
There are numerous ones on everything, on everything.
I just don't know what you're talking about. So if you give me an example, I can relate to it.
There are many examples of Bennett starting. That Bennett starting an idea. Netanyahu even. I'll give you a great example. Elor Azaria, the shooting soldier in Hebron. At first, Netanyahu said took the side of the former Minister of Defense. Then Bennett said, no, we have to defend the soldier. And Netanyahu changed 180 degrees.
He didn't change. He called the father.
180 degrees.
He called the father of the soldier. He didn't change.
And there are so many.
He didn't change
there are so many other examples.
Okay, let's go back to Jerusalem for 1 second.
For Jerusalem, look, these laws and everything. I think Netanyahu understands, and finally he gets some sense that in order even to create a facade of him wanting to go to the peace deal that President Trump is trying to promote.
Which we don't know what it is.
To pass right now a law that says it will be impossible to divide Jerusalem when it's obvious that any peace agreement and any Palestinian state that would be formed, you'll have to have a compromise in Jerusalem. He knows that even if he doesn't want to go to that agreement, to show that to the Americans would be a disaster diplomatically for him.
I agree with you 100% with what you just said, and this is exactly the type of political game that we must stop playing. It is this kind. One second.
It's your prime minister. I didn't vote for him.
I agree with you. No, it's our prime minister. But I think that this game of, well, let's not claim what's ours is ours, not to step on anyone's toes. This is the reason a lot of the world keeps on saying that UNESCO votes against Jerusalem because the prime minister won't unify. It's obvious. This is our fault. But I think that
to give him credit, it's not like he's not unifying. He's just saying that in order to divide, you need 80 members of Knesset.
Which is impossible. Which is impossible.
Right.
So I think that for the future, exactly what I'm saying is I'm happy that there's someone in the Knesset who says, enough. There are things we're not going to talk about. Jerusalem is not on the table.
Everybody's talking about Jerusalem. It's obvious that it's in the core of the debate,
the fact that
both international and domestic.
The fact that everybody's talking about it doesn't make it true or right. But what I'm saying about Netanyahu is, whether it was done politically by Bennett or not.
So we came to the conclusion of another Israeli Frenemies. I enjoyed the show. I'm looking forward for next week. We're going to have a lot to talk about. We have the Putin-Trump meeting and so on. Ari, what do you have to say?
Well, Frenemies, like we say, different opinions, same people. Make sure to watch us on Facebook and everywhere else and share it around. #1 show on ILTV.